Hello. So today we're going to be taking a look at the shutdown procedures in the Boeing 737 NGX. So we've just landed at Inverness Airport. I'm now taxiing towards the terminal. I've just finished all of the initial cleanup items, which involved pulling the flaps up, storing the speed brakes, and turning on the APU. So something you may notice, you may notice the master caution light come on, and we'll get a little annunciator which says anti-ice over on the right hand side. Now the reason that we got that is because one of the steps in the previous video was to turn off the probe heat switches, so that's why we get the master caution light pop on. So that's not to worry, that's not a major concern at this point, so we can just cancel that warning and everything is okay there. So what I'm going to do just now is I'm just going to taxi round to the terminal here at Inverness. And then what we'll do is we'll park up and we'll go through the whole shutdown process. So what we've got in front of us just now is the the north apron. This is where all of the GA aircraft would be. Over here on the right. Sometimes you get a few on the left as well. But we're going down to the main terminal, which will be this building here. It doesn't look anything like the real thing. I am just using default FSX scenery here. So yeah, so we're just going to taxi straight ahead. Inverness is a very small airport. There's no jetways or anything here, so it's just basically an apron where we'll bring the aircraft to a standstill and we'll turn off all the engines. And then if we had ground crews, they would pull up a bunch of mobile staircases, and yeah, we can listen to all of the passengers undoing their seatbelts before we turn off the seatbelt sign. It'll be great, good times. Anyway, so to save a bit more time, first thing we're going to do is take this first taxiway here. Now my parking skills are probably going to be really bad because there's a very short distance between the taxiway and the front of the apron, so I doubt that I'm going to get the aircraft lined up properly for parking here. What I am going to do is I'm actually going to just taxi forward a bit more, bring the throttles to idle there to make sure that we're not accelerating towards the end of the apron, and then bring the aircraft to a stop. So first things first is to enable the parking brake to make sure that we're not going to go anywhere. Next, if we have a look at the upper overhead panel, let me sort the camera out here so it looks a bit more professional. So first thing we want to do is make sure that the APU is running. We can check the APU generator again up here. That's all working, that's all okay. So first thing we need to do after stopping is to switch electrical power off the engines and onto the APU. So we'll turn on the APU generators there. Next, we come back to the virtual cockpit view and we move the engine start switches both to the cutoff position down here. So 1 and 2. So what we want to do is we just want to monitor the engines here, just make sure that the fuel flow is cut, and make sure that the engines are now slowing down and don't continue running. The low oil pressure lights are to be expected. I'm also going to start getting a whole plethora of cautions and warnings and all sorts here, which is fine, it's normal, it's to be expected. So when the engines have started slowing down, we can now turn the seatbelt signs off. Although, as I said before, everyone's probably unbuckled themselves already. And now that the engines have slowed down to a safe speed and not producing any power, we can also now turn the anti-collision light off to allow ground crews to now approach the aircraft. So coming back to the overhead, now that the engines are off, what we can do is turn off the fuel pumps. What I'm going to do is leave the forward left fuel pump on because that'll be supplying fuel to the APU. The anti-ice switches, if we were using anti-ice during the descent, we could turn those off now. The hydraulic switches, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the engine hydraulics on and turn off the electric hydraulics there, and we should get low pressure lights on all of those. The recirculation fans, we'll leave both of those on auto over here. And the packs, we're going to leave those on auto, and we're going to turn the isolation valve on there. The bleed air switches, we can turn all of those back on now, and when we enable the APU bleed air, we should get the bleed air lights, which is okay. The exterior lights we can set as needed, so what we're going to do is just double check, make sure all of the landing lights are off. If you're using the runway turn-offs, you could turn those off, turn off the taxi lights. Coming over to the right side, if you wanted to, you could have turned on the logo light before. We'll make sure the position lights are in a steady position, anti-collision light is off, and if it was dark outside and you wanted to, you could use the wing and wheel well lights as well. Coming back to the glare shield, the next item is to turn off the flight director switches. So we'll turn the right side first, then the left. And now that we've stopped and the engines are powered off, we can just check the transponder. If it wasn't on standby before, just make sure the transponder is back in standby. So the next step is a simulator only step. What we're going to do now is connect all of the ground equipment. So if we go into the CDU, go to the menu, go into FS Actions, we're going to go to Ground Connections. We're going to set the wheel chocks first of all, and then we're going to connect the ground power unit there. Now if you're flying with a ground sort of a ground service add-on like GSX, what you could also do now at this point is also open up the doors, which will allow passengers to start deboarding the aircraft. Okay, so now that the wheel chocks are in position and can prevent the aircraft from moving, what we could do is now turn the parking brake off. And then if we come up to the overhead panel again, we can turn the ground power switch on, make sure we've got the ground power available light is on, turn the ground power switch on. So we're now taking electrical power from the ground power unit and not the APU. And because we're now not using the APU, we can now turn the APU off. Like so. Okay, and with that final step, we can now move into the shutdown checklist. So fuel pumps can now come off. So now that we're not using the APU, we can now turn off that fuel pump that we use for the APU. So make sure all of the fuel pumps are off. Oops, having a look up here, make sure that the probe heat switches are off. The hydraulic panel, make sure that is set, so the engine hydraulic pumps are on, the electric hydraulic pumps are off. Come back to the virtual cockpit, flaps, make sure that those are up and all of the lights are off. And just double check the flaps lever here, make sure that the lever is in the same position as the indicator. Parking brake, now that we've got the chock set, that can be set to off. The engine start levers, make sure that those are in the cutoff position. And the weather radar, just make sure that that was switched off as well. And that should be the shutdown checklist completed. Okay, and with the shutdown checklist completed, that is everything that you need to do to finish a flight with the Boeing 737 NGX. Now, if you're going to fly again, for example, if you're flying outbound and you want to fly return leg, now you can go back and start flying again, or start the whole pre-flight procedure, starting with the preliminary pre-flight procedure. So that's where you would normally turn on the IRS systems. They're already enabled, so you don't need to worry about that. But what you will want to do is you want to go and start working through checking the crew oxygen, the passenger oxygen systems, and check the oil quantity, hydraulic quantity and things like that. And then after that you'll be going into the CDU pre-flight procedure and then the normal pre-flight procedure, and you just start working through the whole process again to get the plane ready for another flight. So that's it as far as flying is concerned, but what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to show a final step, which is the actual sort of aircraft secure procedure. So if you want to take the aircraft from this powered state back into a cold and dark state, I'm just going to cover a final few actions that you can do there. So first things first, what you want to do is go up to the IRS systems up on the upper overhead panel here, and you want to turn both of those off. Next, if you come back to the lower overhead panel, next thing to do is to turn the emergency exit lights system off. So just push the switch up there and you should get the not armed lights there. Next you can turn the window heat switches off. So turn all of those off up there, and then you can also turn the packs off over here on the air conditioning panel as well. And with those 4 steps, now we can run through the secure checklist. So very simply, it's the same as the items that we just did. So IRSs are definitely off, emergency exit lights are off, window heat switches are all off, and the packs are both off as well. Now to move into the next procedure, which will be the electrical power down, all we simply do is turn the APU. So if we were still using the APU, we would turn the APU off now, but we're using ground power, so we're going to turn the ground power switch off. And you'll also listen, you would have heard that all of the sort of system cooling fans have also gone off there as well. Now the aircraft is still powered on, but we're now using exclusively battery power and not the ground power unit. So to bring the aircraft fully off, what we're going to do is go up to the battery master switch and turn that into the off position, like so. And then the final step there, just make sure the position lights there are also in the off position. And that is it. That is the aircraft back in its cold and dark state. So with that procedure, that's it for the procedure guides for the Boeing 737. So hopefully you found the several videos valuable. Hopefully you now have a much better understanding of how to fly this aircraft, and yeah, hopefully these series of videos enhance your simulator experience with the 737. I know for me it certainly has, and I feel so much more confident after studying this aircraft and learning how to fly it. I feel much more confident flying it now, so hopefully these videos help you feel the same way. Now this is not going to be the end of the 737 videos. I am going to be covering some of the other sort of things within the aircraft in more detail. For example, in the last video I said I was going to do an auto-land procedure, so I'm going to cover that. I'm going to talk about the MCP panel and all of the different MCP modes in detail. We do of course have this fancy thing here, the HUD, that we're going to be covering as well in its own video. So the videos are going to be take a bit more time. I don't know how all of these systems work yet, so I'm going to dedicate a bit of time to learning those. So while these procedure guides have come out fairly regularly, the next bunch of videos will not. There'll probably be a couple of weeks between each video, but I want to make sure that I understand it all fully myself before I make a video and sort of explain how it all works to you guys. So yeah, that's it for now, and yeah, if you did like this series, if you do feel that these videos would benefit other flight simmers, the best thing you can do for me is to sort of share these videos online, link to these videos on my page, and try and kind of help other flight simmers sort of find my channel and find my name and get my name out there. YouTube doesn't do the best job to promote this sort of content to you guys, so the best thing that you could do, if you feel that people would benefit, if you like my videos, if you want to help me out, is to just share these videos, get my name out in the flight sim community, and just let people know and tell people about what I do on this channel. But that's it for now. More videos coming soon, and yeah, I should be live streaming again very soon, and fingers crossed the live stream quality will be a lot better in a few weeks time. So looking forward to doing that with you guys. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you all very much for watching. Take care out there, and I will catch you all later.